Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? So today we will cover one more interesting part in the backend. To give you some context, we are building this e-commerce platform from scratch. You can check it here. So this front end is made in Vue.js and it's hosted in Netlify, and the backend is hosted in Heroku, and it's made using Java and Spring Boot. And we have this playlist where you can see all the videos I have made till now. The last video was related to the sign up and sign in our e-commerce app. So you can see this video here. The backend video is here and the front end video is here. If you're interested, you can go through these two videos. Today we'll go far. We'll continue building more. We'll continue building the wish list. So let's get started. To give you some more idea, I have created this lucid chart for you guys. So as you can see, we have a product table, we have a category table, we have a user table, we have authentication token table. Today we are going to build this wish list table. So to show you this in action, you can check that here when you log in, you can check out the wish list part here. So I have added these things in the wish list. So let's add one more thing in the wish list. So let's go to this product, wash me, and let's do add to wish list. And to show you the API, I can show you the API here. Add the product in the wish list. So we have got the message added to wish list, and you can see the API from here. Limit it's like wish list add, and we pass a token, and it's a post request, and the headers are we care about the payload. So in the payload we just send the ID of the product, and we have the token. So from the token we can get the user ID, and from the ID it's the product ID, and we can save the product ID and the user ID in the wishlist table. So as you can see that we have the wishlist controller and we have the post method here. So here we just need to pass the ID, which is the product ID, and we pass the token. This thing, the other fields are not, the other fields are optional. So you pass the token, you pass the product ID, and then you save the item in the post. And for the get, we have a page to get the wish list. So if you go to this page, you will see that we have a wish list API. So we can also, and you can see the new product is displayed at the top. I have not implemented the deleted part of the wish list, so that is an assignment to you. So after I finish this video, I will give you the branch, and I encourage you guys to make the delete functionality for the wish list and send me a PR, and I will check and review your code. That's the way you can learn how to build this a real life project from scratch. Just only watching the videos will not help. So I encourage you guys to also complete the assignment. as you can see. So let's try see this. Let's pass this token and see the wishlist API in action. So in the get API, we pass the token and we get all the products, as you can see, like wash me back, you can see it, and we are displaying it here, wash me, decoration, these things. All right, so that was the brief introduction of what we are going to make. So let's get started and start coding. So as you can see, I have the branch in my computer. It's called YouTube authentication. So I will start from this branch. So we finished the last video with this branch of authentication, as you can see here, the finished code. So from this finished code, it will be our starting point for today, and we will make a branch git checkout YouTube wishlist. And once sorry, it's a new branch, so we have to pass b. All right, so you can find the starting code from this branch, and after I finish the tutorial, I will push my changes in this wishlist branch, and you can check it out. And you can create your assignment from this branch after I finish the video. All right, so let's run the code. So let's go to localhost 8080 and Swagger UI. And as you can see, we have only three API list: category, product, and user. So today we'll create the wish list. As you can see from the production, we have wishlist controller, which has two APIs. One is get and one is post. So we'll create these two APIs today. So we have to create a controller, we have to create a model, we have to create a repo, we have to create a service. So let's do it one by one. So first let's make it a wishlist controller. It will be a REST controller, and we'll have a request mapping of wishlist. So all the APIs in this controller will start with this part of the URL. As you can see from the API, that every part is start with wishlist. As you can see, that wishlist token and wishlist add. So this prefix is defined here, and then we'll make a service and we'll annotate it with service. and then we'll make a model. It will be wishlist, and we'll annotate this class with entity, and table will be wishlist. All right, so let's complete the model part first. So think of what will be the attributes of this class. So a wishlist should have a link to the product, a link to the user, and a created date by which we can sort it. So as you can see from the diagram, we'll have an ID, you will have a user ID, you will have a product ID to link with the product that you want to add. You will have a link to the user by the user ID, and you will have a created date. So this user ID you will get by the token, this product ID you will pass in the API, and when you save the data, you will save the current time, that will be the created date. I hope it is clear to you guys. So let's finish the wishlist part then. So first you will have an ID, it will be a generated value, strategy will be generation type identity, and it will be a private integer ID, and then it will have a one-to-one relationship with the user. So you can say one-to-one and target identity entity user.class, and fetch type, you can give a fetch equal to fetch type eager. If you don't know about fetch type, don't worry about it now. You can research in the Google or just follow along with me. And join column will be name will be user ID. So by this one we will join the table and it will link to the user class. This is very important to build this relationship, because you have to understand how to build this model and how to link this one-to-one, one-to-many relationships. And by that you'll understand how to model the database, and you will be a good developer if you can model it yourself. So moving on, then we'll make the created date. So it will be column, name will be created date, private date, let's import the date from Java util, and then we'll have a product. So it will be a many to one relationship. One product can be part of many wish list, but each wish list will belong to only one user. So we'll make it a join column. It will be product ID, and private product. So you can test it. So okay, so let's create the constructor. And let's create an empty constructor. And let's create the getter and setter. All right. Now let's create a repo. Wishlist repository. And annotate with the repository. All right. And so it will extend JPA repository, and it will be not class, it will be interface. And it will have wishlist and an integer. All right, so I think our repository is ready, and we will now link auto-wire the repository here. All right, and we will auto-wire the service here. That's it. So we are now ready to make the APIs. So we'll have two APIs, one to post product, say product in wishlist, and one will be get all product, get all wishlist item for a user. As wishlist item, and get all wishlist item for a user. We'll have these two APIs. Easy peasy. I hope it makes sense. I will explain this once again. So we'll have one API to save the data, as you can see from the UI. One will be to fetch all the data of the wish in the wish list, and one will be to save a data in the wish list. So we'll have two APIs, as you can see from the UI hosted. So let's now create these two APIs one by one. So first I will create the post API where you have to save the data. So let's call public response entity API response, add to wish list, and it can have a request body of product. And it will have a request parameter of where we will pass the token. So you can pass a request parameter, and this will be the user token. So let's import the product, and request parameter token. All right, so let's now, it will be a string. So first we need to authenticate the token, and then we need to find the user, and then we need to save the item in wishlist. So let's do it one by one. So if you remember, we have this authentication service. Let's open it. So we have a get user. No, so we have to create a method to authenticate the token. So let's create this method here. So public void authenticate, and I'll pass a string token. I'll check if the token exists, if the token is valid or not. If the token is valid or not. So first we'll check if it is null or not. So let's have a null check. So if objects not null token. So if object is null, then just throw an exception. An exception. So let's create a exception of called authentication fail exception. So in the exceptions directory, we have it already an exception ready. So let's throw this exception. Throw new authentication fail exception, token not present. And let's add this in the signature, and let's create a method to get the user from the token. So public user get user string token. So now find authentication token will be token. We'll have a repository, token repository dot find by. So you have to create a method in the token. We have find by user. We will also have find by token. And let's make it string and token. All right, so here we'll call it find by token, and we will pass the token here. So let's call it authentication token. No, it will be not authentication token. We'll have 1 second. Yeah, it will be authentication token, right? So we'll get it automatically. So let's pass the token, and let's see which. So you can find, so it will be authentication token. So we got the token, but it might be null, right? Because it might be that the token is not valid, so we'll get a null. So if objects is null, then just return null. Else, if so, it means the token is not null, like the token is not null now. Authentication token is not null anymore because we come here. So we just send return authentication token. So yeah, it should be authentication token, not token. So this is the string token and this is the object of authentication token. So don't get confused between those two. And we just sent the get user from here. All right. So if it is null, then we'll throw this or we send. Okay. So now we'll check if it is if the user is present or not. So if the get user and token, if it is null, then we'll just throw an exception. Objects dot is null. We'll throw an exception. Token not valid. So to summarize, so we have this authenticate method. First we do a null check. Then we try to find the user, and this method will find the token from the string token, the token object, and it will return the user. But if it is null, this user, then we send a error that the token is not valid because there is like no user with that token. So that is the two methods that we will be using. So first we will authenticate the token. So let's go also auto-write the authentication service. So first we will authenticate the token. And if the token is not valid, it will throw some exception. And then we'll find the user. So user will be authentication service dot get user and token. So you can be sure that now we have a user because we have already authenticated. And if the user is not present, we'll throw an exception. So that's all fine. And now we have to save the item in the wish list. So we can create an object wish list, and it will take the user and the product. So we'll create this constructor here. So let's create a constructor. which will take user and product, and we'll have the created date, new date. That's it. So we created this use list, and now we'll call the wishlist service to save it. So let's create a method, create wishlist, and we'll pass the wishlist here. And now let's create this method. All right, so let's create this method of wishlist. So you can call the wishlist repository and call the save, and let's pass the wishlist. All right, so I think now we just need to send a response that it is successful. So let's say pass true. So you can actually create a API response here. And add it to wishlist, and you can pass the API response here, and you can pass a HTTP created status. So that's it, I think. So let's run this. Again, and we should see the add to wish list thing, but we have to also pass one post mapping here, and it will be add. So let's run it again. All right, so now let's now refresh it, and you can see there is one more API, and you can see the add. So let's try it. So we can add, we can ignore this JSON. So we have like too many things here. So we can use JSON ignore this field in the product. So let's once run this again. So let's now refresh this, and you'll see we only have like description, ID, product image, product URL, name, and this. So let's try to send a product like this. So we can find we can find some product from the product controller. So let's call this method, and we get all the products here. And now let's try to add some product here. Let's try to add this, this product in the wish list. So we pass the product and we need to pass a token. So let's find a token. So if you go here and if you go to the API again to sign in, we should find the token. So let's see if we have admin@gmail.com this token or not. So you can find status success and we have a token. So let's send the product. Okay, also let's check the database. So if you go to the terminal and let's open a new terminal, is root and use e-commerce v2 and show tables. So you can see that we have the wishlist table created, and let's select this. So the structure of the wishlist: show, create table, wishlist. So as you can see, we have the product ID and the user ID, created date. Oh, we have got two created date, so don't worry about it. So there is a spelling mistake, so that's why we got it. So we can also correct it. So we have two created date. We can delete it. So let's alter the table and delete the. So it will be alter table wish list. Okay, so now let's check it again. Okay, so let's once again run it and see if we have the same. We have the right structure. Record is running and we have the same thing. Okay, so now right now you should see that it is empty. Wish list. So now it is empty. And now let's try to save it. We have the token here present and let's try to save it. Let's see if it works or not. So let's pass the token and we got the success true. So let's see if we got that item in the wish list or not. Yes, we see that we have the product ID 1, user ID 2, it's all present. And you can also see from the user table that it is 2. So select star from user, it should be users, and you can see that admin has the user ID 2 and we added product ID 1, so it's working fine. So let's try to add one more product in the wish list. So we added a product ID 1 and also let's add product ID 2, or let's add product ID 3. So let's add this product to the same user's wish list and execute it. And you can see that item is added to the wish list. And we can also check it here that we have now user ID 2 has 2 items, product ID 1 and 3, and a created date. So now what we want to do is we want to create the API to get all the items in a wish list. It's the second API that we will make. So this API is this one. So when you go to the wishlist page, you see all the items in the wish list. So we'll add this item in the wish list. So now as you can see, we have two items for the same user. So we can also check if the product is already present in the wish list of that user, and then don't add it again. So I can also leave it for an exercise to you guys. You can implement that thing on your own, and you can send me a PR. So you can first, so here you have to first check from the repo that if there is already a wish list with that product and that user, and in that case don't add it again. Okay, so you can do it yourself. And let's get all items for a user in the wish list. So let's implement this API now. So for that we have to create API. You'll have get mapping, and we'll pass the token. And public response entity, and it will have a list of product DTO. Why product DTO? Because let's see the structure of the product DTO. It has the ID, name. So this DTO we use for sending the data to the response body. So it has ID, name, image URL, price, description, and category ID. So it is almost same as product, but we use this one so to send the data to the user. We'll use this DTO to send the data. So we'll send get wishlist. Also, you can see from the API that how it looks like. We can see that when you send this token, then we get this list of this product DTO, and we display it in the UI. So let's create this thing, get wishlist, and we'll send a path variable, and it will be token. So like before, like this, we will also to authenticate the user and find the user from this. So you can do the same thing here, and it will be string token. And let's get all the users. So return wishlist service dot get wishlist for user, and pass the user here, and we'll create this method. So first we'll get all the wish lists from the repository. So wishlist repository dot, so we will create a method here, list of wish list, find all by, it will be find all by user ID, user, not user ID, user, and order by created date and descending, so that we get the product which is added the latest, the most recent in the top. So we can find this thing by this, And so it's so easy, right? So find all by user and order by created date and descending, and you pass the user here. So let's import the user and let's import the list. So that's it. So first we will get all the wish list, and we pass the user here, and we get all the wish list item here. And from this wish list we have to find the product details and send it back. So what we can do is we can make a list of product details. It will be products, will be a new array list, and what we do is we will find, so for each wish list we'll get the product details and send it back. Let's make the product details to make it more clear. So now for wishlist in wishlist, so product details dot add, so we have to find the product, we have to find the product detail from the product. So what we can do, we have a, so in the product service, if you go, we have a method to get product detail from product. So we'll use the same method here. So we'll see, we'll have product serve, so we can also import the product service. And here we can say that product service dot get product detail from the product, and we can send the wishlist dot get product. So simple, right? So first we get the product from the wishlist. First we get all the wishlist items for the user. Then for each wishlist we get the product which is present in the wishlist, and from that product we make the product detail and add it in the product details list, and then we just return the product details list. And it will be a little bit different, so let's refactor this as a list of product details, and we'll send the response here. So first we make it as wishlist for the user, and we can now wrap it for the users, and you can send a status HTTP okay. And let's, to make it more clear, let's make it product details and send it product details here. So that's it, and let's hope this should work. So if we run the code again, let's copy the token, and let's see if we can see the two products that we have added. If you can see these two products in the new API. So as you can see, we got the new API of the get. Let's send the token here and let's execute it. and you can see the two products are present, and you find the latest product in the top and the first product ID in the second. So that's it for the wishlist API. To summarize the get API once again, first we authenticate the token, then we get the user, then we get the wishlist for the user, and we get the product details and we send this response. And in the get wishlist for user method, we pass the user. First from the repository we get all the wishlist for the user, which we sort by the created date by descending order, and for each wishlist we get the product and change the product to product detail by this method, and then we just send it to the user in the API. So that's it for the today's tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and you learned something from it. If you like the video, please subscribe my channel and please give me some love. Show some like the videos. You know all the things that you need to do. So in the next tutorial, we are going to implement the wishlist UI, these two pages. So add to the wishlist and show the wishlist, all the items in the wishlist. And in the next backend tutorial, I will implement one very interesting feature that will be the shopping cart. As you can see, we have the shopping cart. It will be kind of similar to the wish list, but we will also have the option to remove items from the cart, also edit the cart items. So it will be interesting, and after that we'll integrate something really interesting, which will be the Stripe payment checkout. So if you can see that we have the Stripe checkout. We are going to implement that in the next tutorial of the backend series. So stay tuned and good day for now.